Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. Psychological safety at the workplace is a big topic of conversation, and there's a reason for that. Clearly, there are enough people out in the workplace who don't feel that sense of safety when it comes to being at work and being able to express themselves in terms of work and work-related issues. Let's start at the beginning by defining what psychological safety is. It's not a complicated definition, it's pretty self-explanatory. Psychological safety is the absence of interpersonal fear, which allows them to express themselves or speak up in terms of work-related content. This means having no worries about being humiliated or being punished in some other way. It seems like such a basic expectation, yet, as I've already mentioned, given that this is such a big topic of conversation over the last several years, it means that there are plenty of people out there who feel that there is not adequate psychological safety at their workplace. Let's talk about how psychological safety can actually be increased. When it comes to the workplace, it's critical to establish a culture that embraces communications. That means open, honest, and respectful communications. Let's face it, if we are in an environment where communications are open, honest, and respectful, it's a lot easier to contribute to the conversation as opposed to a culture where communication is lacking for whatever reason, whether it's lacking in general or it's just not genuine or safe or respectful in terms of how communications are conducted or allowed. Supportive leadership is key, but not just any old supportive leadership, but rather one that includes a consultative approach. When we have leadership that takes on that approach, that in itself makes it a much safer environment for everyone at the workplace. It's also important to be able to reframe mistakes. Mistakes are a part of life, both in our personal lives and at the workplace. But the important thing is that mistakes are partly seen as opportunities for learning and growth. Of course, there are times where mistakes have to be corrected first and foremost. But at the end of the day, every mistake is an opportunity for learning and for growth. And it's absolutely critical when establishing a psychologically safe workplace that mistakes are part of growth and development and not solely something for which somebody could be punished or humiliated. It's important to focus on transparency as a way of building trust. Whenever trust is lacking, it's that much more difficult to create a psychologically safe environment. So transparency is a big one when it comes to creating this kind of environment for the workplace and its employees. It's important to be clear about expectations. If an organization is determined to create and foster the kind of environment that offers psychological safety for its employees, it can't be vague or secretive about it. It has to be a clear intention that is openly stated and discussed. Psychological safety can't be something that's only recognized Psychological safety can't be something that's only recognized once the organization feels that it has been achieved. It's something that has to be talked about along the way. It must be a goal. You may think that these are tips that are strictly reserved for the organization and its leaders, but in reality, these apply to everyone. Every individual can work within the parameters of these suggestions to contribute to making the workplace a psychologically safe environment. After all, at the end of the day, psychological safety is everyone's responsibility, and everybody has the potential and the opportunity to contribute to it. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. First and foremost, there's a reason why psychological safety has been a hot topic of discussion for the last several years. Clearly, this is something that is lacking and needs to be addressed. And as I mentioned, this is not only the organization's responsibility. The responsibility and opportunity to contribute to psychological safety at the workplace belongs to everyone. It's important to create a culture of respectful and open communications and an environment where leadership is supportive and consultative in its approach. Mistakes should be seen as opportunities for learning and growth, and not as something that is solely the source or the reason for punishment. The focus must be clear and transparency must be real in an organization where psychological safety is a goal. And remember, regardless of your position at the organization, you have the responsibility and the opportunity to contribute to the psychological safety at your workplace. As the week unfolds, I invite you to take a look at what kind of psychological safety exists at your organization, whether you're part of the leadership or part of the workforce, and consider how you can contribute to better psychological safety at the workplace. After all, everybody can do something to either promote it or to hinder it. So take the responsibility and the opportunity to learn what you heard here today and contribute to a psychologically safe work environment. For those of you who are experiencing this podcast in an audio-only version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of the podcast. That is Stress Free with Dr. G, and the link for that can be found in the description below. In addition to the video version of this podcast, my YouTube channel also contains videos that focus on a comprehensive approach to stress management, so I invite you to check that out. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.